Welcome to Accio Politics, a Harry Potter reread podcast focusing on the politics of the series. I'm Adri, one of your hosts, a recovering English major and human blob wanting 2020 to be over, even though time is meaningless and a flat circle.
Helene here, your co-host, producer, and fellow human blob, who's finally feeling slightly hopeful for a better future. Possibly, I don't know. I felt like a fleeting moment of hope earlier this week when I added this to the script, and so I'm sure it won't last forever, but I'm gonna hold on to it.
Nothing lasts forever, Helene. That's what we learn as we grow older.
This is true. It's depressing. Anyway, let's move on.
Yay! Anyhow, today, or, on this episode, we will be covering chapter 16 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and this one is titled In the Hog's Head.
This is the one where the trio meets a group of 20-plus hopeful Hogwarts students wanting to learn defense against the dark arts from Harry, might I say, at the Hog's Head, and henceforth Dumbledore's army was formed.
It almost reminds me of, like, The Bachelor, like everyone just going to one place, and Harry's like, oh shit, this is real. What are they expecting
Yeah, and they're
from
all
me?
fighting. They're all fighting for Harry's heart, and they want to be the one that proposes to him at the end. Yeah, totally like The Bachelor.
Yeah, or, producer Patronus, that's how they go on to the next round. The stag carries them to the next round. There you go. Well, but this is the time where we'd like to thank our patrons who make this podcast possible. If you, like all our patrons, would like bonus content and help to keep this podcast going, you can head over to patreon.com/AccioPolitics and choose your tier. $2 a month will get you access to bonus content for every episode, and other tiers can get you that, plus physical rewards every 3 months. Helene, speaking of bonus content, what's today's bonus content for our patrons?
We're going to be talking about the op-ed that was published in the Wall Street Journal about Dr. Jill Biden and how she should drop the doctor from her honorific because, the patriarchy.
Yay, patriarchy.
Before we get into today's chapter, it's time for our Potter Watch segment where we discuss some of the latest news in the United States.
Potter Watch, what the ministry doesn't want you to know. All right, so let's run through these real quick. Electoral College votes are in as of this Monday of this week, Monday the 14th, and Biden is the president-elect.
Wow, I had no idea. This is such a huge surprise. I didn't know this since, November 15th or whatever.
Well, since we've been relitigating and recounting votes over and over again, and Biden keeps winning, we're like at the edge of our seats. After this, notable turtle Mitch McConnell has finally congratulated President-elect Biden.
Yeah, okay. He acknowledged that Biden won the Electoral College, but not until after Putin acknowledged it.
Which is even worse, right?
Yeah, no, my sister texted us, my family, when Putin acknowledged it. She's like, Putin just acknowledged that Joe Biden is the president-elect, and Mitch McConnell hasn't even done it yet. And then later that day, Mitch McConnell did it, but it's ridiculous. Like, the Senate Majority Leader literally cannot acknowledge that Trump lost before Vladimir Putin. I cannot. It's just so insane. I can't.
Mitch is just like one hair worse than an actual dictator. Great.
Well, I really hope that's the last time I ever have to call him Senate Majority Leader, because I am keeping all of my fingers and toes crossed for this Georgia runoff election. We need to flip the Senate, please. For the love of God, I want Mitch McConnell to have much, much less power than he does.
Oh, 1,000%. If you are in Georgia or know someone in Georgia who is registered to vote, please, I implore you, vote blue.
Please, please, please.
Also, this week on the 14th, the COVID vaccine from Pfizer was given the emergency approval by the FDA. People are starting to get their COVID vaccines, like their first dose at least, and then they'll get dose numero dos in 28 days after that first dose. So I am cautiously optimistic that at some point I will be able to leave this house and live.
For the most part, I'm pretty sure that things have been going pretty successfully. What I've learned over the last week in regards to the vaccine are that people with severe allergies that have to carry EpiPens should probably hold off on getting the vaccine because there can be some severe allergic reactions, but only like seasonal allergies that people don't have to worry if you have like seasonal allergies or something. If you carry an EpiPen, maybe look it up and learn a little bit more about that. And I also learned that apparently children under the age of 16 are not able to get this vaccine.
Yes, so they haven't been cleared for the vaccine, and neither have pregnant women.
Really? Because I thought that whole pregnant women thing was like false news.
So pregnant women have not been cleared to receive the vaccine, though they could access it at their own, risk.
Okay, yeah, because I saw some like a fake article going around on social media the other day that the vaccine can cause infertility in women, which
no.
has been like
that's not it. So
that's been like disproven, so it's not true.
The reason why it's not cleared for pregnant women is because obviously the trials did not seek out pregnant women.
Oh, I guess they didn't test on them.
So it is unclear whether it could have a side effect on a fetus. They're not banning pregnant women from accessing the vaccine, but it's more of like, hey, this is not cleared for you guys. If you want to get the vaccine, this is, at your own risk.
Yeah, I'm guessing they probably like didn't have a lot of access to pregnant women who are willing to try an untested vaccine without knowing the potential consequences of what could happen to them or their unborn child.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
I mean, it's pregnancy is one of those physiological changes that we still don't. I mean, we know a lot about, but we don't know enough about to make a determination either way.
Yeah, I mean, so like then I guess you kind of have to weigh it. What's worse, a pregnant woman getting the vaccine and not knowing what this possible side effects are, or a pregnant woman getting COVID?
Well, correct. So, but that's again, that's up to the lady who
the mother,
carrying a child, yes, or carrying a fetus, an unborn person. I don't know. The clump of cells. Anyhow, yeah, so I'm really excited about that. The other thing I have learned, Helene, and I don't know if you know this, is that even people who are rational, can be dissuaded by misinformation that looks very credible about the vaccine. Like, my mom is always very pro-vaccine, but then she called, like when I called her this weekend, she was saying like, well, are you gonna take the vaccine? I was like, of course the fuck I am. Well, what are you talking about? She's like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna give it like 6 months and see what happens. And I was like, excuse me, what? And then she was like talking to me about like this YouTube video someone had forwarded her on WhatsApp about like a random gynecologist saying like how like harmful the vaccine was or whatever. No proven.
There are no known side effects.
But without any proven data, right? And I was like, Mom, first of all, how do you know it's a real doctor? Second of all, Mother, dumb people come in all professions, right? Like, there are dumb lawyers, dumb doctors, dumb teachers, like dumb everything. Just because they got an MD or they can memorize info does not mean that they know how to think critically and rationally. It's fine. Take the freaking vaccine. So we went back and forth for about half an hour, me debunking everything. And then she was like, you're right. She was like, okay, it's already been like, at this time it hadn't been approved by the FDA, but it had been approved in England. It's just like, well, it's been approved in England. So by the time it makes it, so that I can get it, we will have data from England for, from a few months of after people taking
Exactly.
it, right? And I was like, yes, mother, that's why you need to be the fucking first in line, because you are over 65 and diabetic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thankfully, my dad, who's also extremely high risk, is like in the mindset of like he would be the first person to take it if they let him. He's been like, sign me up. The second it's available, I'm there. Like,
yeah, no, same
so
here.
I'm glad I don't have to. I'm glad I don't have to convince him to do it.
But see, like, the thing is that she's usually really good about not falling for misinformation. But I think the way that a lot of our parents or friends or just anyone can be subject to misinformation is if it comes from a friend they trust.
Yeah.
And and that's how this spreads. Then I was like, Mom, like, don't become an anti-vaxxer. Like, do you know how stupid you look? And she's like, oh, yeah, no, I always take my flu shot. I was like, yeah, Mom, it's legitimately just
and
like that.
and those are different every single year,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
they have even less time to test them, I feel like, than they do.
Then she was telling me like, oh, like there was like this teacher I used to, used to be her colleague, who was completely anti-vax, and she was like a physical education teacher, which, like, okay. And she was like, she was so dumb, and I was like, yeah, and you're being just as dumb right now. And she's like, oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. Long story short, people, check your sources.
Well, I just wanted to rant a little bit about that because vaccines are important. Anyway.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read, etc., etc.
Okay, the last one. I promise. This is the last thing we're going to talk about. Pardons. Pardon me. Despite the fact that there is an actual process to go about pardons, like, now people are panicking because Trump isn't issuing pardons like a lame duck president should, rapidly. So they are contacting the White House and Jared Kushner directly to ask for pardons.
Oh my goodness.
It's a freaking circus. It's insane.
All I really care about at this point in terms of pardons is I just want to see if Trump's going to try and pardon himself, or if he's going to step down and have Pence pardon him. That I literally don't care about anybody else.
Well, I also want to see if he pardons his family.
Has he not done that yet? Yeah, I've just heard that people, like, I've heard that he's done that already.
I haven't seen a press release about the pardon, so he hasn't done it.
Well, then maybe it's just people are like, yeah, he's gonna do that, because I think it's pretty like
it'll become public knowledge, once you accept a pardon. So it has to become public knowledge. I have not.
Wait, you can refuse a pardon?
Yes, because a pardon can be seen as a admission of guilt.
I didn't know that you had to accept or refuse a pardon. I just thought that it was like, I thought it was like a gift that you you got. It doesn't come with a gift receipt.
My understanding of pardons is that you do not ask nor accept a pardon if you are worried that that's going to make you look guilty.
Oh, I mean, like, I've heard that being a concern since this whole Trump thing, that like people that he's been wanting to give pardons to people who didn't do anything wrong just to like cover his ass. But I didn't think that, like, I didn't know there was an actual acceptance process.
The other thing is that if pardons are issued, those people can then testify against him.
Yep, that's true.
Fun times. Anyhow, it's crazy, and I can't wait until January 20th.
Me too.
All right, let's move on from pardons and shenanigans to our Hogwarts Debate Club, where we take 30 seconds each to go over what we think the politic is this week.
Let's do it.
All right, I think I'm going first. And Helene, I see what you wrote down on yours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm keeping my eye on you, girl.
I'm so surprised we didn't have the same. I was so sure we were going to have the same.
Oh, no. We were, but then I changed mine.
I didn't want you to change your politic.
Fine, I guess.
Yeah, like, maybe we don't even need to do the 30 seconds thing. We can just discuss this politic
because we agree. Move on, because there's no debate.
We're not debating. There's no. I think we've come to an agreement at what this politic is, and since we haven't actually said it out loud, we probably should tell the listeners, because.
Okay, you've talked me into it. We will have the same politic this week. All right. Let's. I don't have a drum roll sound effect.
Here we go. Here we go. Is that good? Does that work?
I want the 20th Century Fox, like the
Yes.
All right. So our politic this week is the politics of grassroots movements.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. This fits so perfectly because I read this chapter and I was like, yes, this is the chapter that Adri was talking about when she did her panel at the Lumos conference. Well, it was Lumos, right? Is that the Lumos conference? Is that what it's called? Or Leviosa? It's a spell that starts with L.
It's an
L spell.
It's a spell.
So do you want to, I know that we've talked about your panel briefly on the podcast before, but do you want to talk about it some more, or?
Yes, I actually do. So the idea behind grassroots movements is a movement that is built within a community that has certain needs, right? So for a grassroots movement, so there's a lot of scholarship on successful grassroots movements and how they start and how they develop. And a successful one, the most important part of a successful grassroots movement is that it's not like Dumbledore, a person with power and prestige and privilege, would go to Hermione and the trio and the students and say, you know what you guys need to do is X, Y, and Z, and structure it himself and prescribe a prescription. That is not a grassroots movement, right? That would be, or even Molly Weasley, someone who is not at Hogwarts.
Yeah. Someone who the action doesn't directly affect.
Exactly. Or who doesn't quite understand the environment that these students are living
in. Yeah.
So there are a lot of people with great intentions who see a community in need, and instead of empowering people within that community or giving them the tools to organize, or saying, hey, what do you need, what can I do for you, right? They go in with what I call a colonizing mindset.
Exactly. While you were talking, I was literally thinking about it's kind of, I was equating it to mission trips, like people going on a mission trip and telling these people, this is what we're going to do to make your life better.
Correct.
So yeah, that definitely makes sense to me.
So correct. So with a colonizing mindset. And what I mean by that is, obviously I grew up in a colony, so I don't know any other way of life until now, I guess. So, when you grow up in a colonized place, you don't understand what the implications of colonization until you get out of it. And when a person goes into a place with that colonizing mindset, even if they have good intentions, like you said with the mission trips, they go in and say, these people are not living like I would like to live, like my community would like to live. So therefore, I am going to impose my views, my values, and my expectations on this community rather than fixing, or rather than not even fixing, rather than asking people
what they need,
what they would like to see change, if anything.
Yeah.
Or rather than trying to understand where people are at.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I think Harry Potter does very well, not just with Dumbledore's army, but with the actual order itself, right, is that it shows us or gives us a blueprint on how to organize at the ground level and seek the counsel and the information from all sectors in Order of the Phoenix, for sure Dumbledore is the head, right? But that doesn't mean that the contributions from other members are not valued or recognized, or that they're not listened to.
Yeah, and we don't even actually know who formed the Order of the Phoenix. We haven't learned that.
As it stands in this book, the figurehead, like the leader of it, is Dumbledore.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they don't have their a side quest, or that doesn't mean that they don't have.
Yeah, but I'm not even convinced that there is like one set leader of the order. I think they look towards Dumbledore as like, you know, an all-knowing entity that they can trust and they'll do whatever he says. But I don't believe it doesn't strike me as like it's not a government with a president.
Yeah,
you know,
so what I meant, what I was saying not very eloquently was that even though the Order of the Phoenix has a de facto figurehead in Dumbledore because of his prestige and knowledge, that doesn't mean that members within the order don't feel empowered to take action on their own.
Exactly. Yeah, and I really do think that the Dumbledore's army is a prime example of like a very inspiring grassroots organization, grassroots movement. And I think that this chapter alone is just such a great example of how one is formed and where they start out and how you get one going. So
yeah,
similar to what you said earlier.
And what's interesting about this one is that so we have a couple of grassroots movements in the series, right? Some better than others. Like we said, we have Dumbledore's army and we have the Order of the Phoenix, which is extremely successful in doing what we just described as a successful grassroots movement. And then we have Death Eaters who are not successful because once they lose their leader, they disband.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where like the center of power.
Oh, and well, that just reminds me, like even in Deathly Hallows, when the Dumbledore's army technically loses their leader in Harry,
correct,
it's still going. Like they don't need Harry for it to still be there and still be successful in making progress and change.
Yes, and that's the one of the hallmarks of a good grassroots movement is that it's not centered on the figurehead or the leader. It's centered more on empowering the members of the movement.
Ooh, even and same with sorry, I just keep on thinking. Same with Order of the Phoenix too, because Dumbledore dies and Order of the Phoenix is still just as strong in Deathly Hallows. Yeah,
but if the members themselves did not feel empowered or heard, or if the movement itself did not address the moment that they were living in, then that would not have happened. I think a lot about Spew. I'm actually wearing my Spew shirt today. And why it wasn't a successful grassroots movement. And it's because instead of listening, you know, we love Hermione and I love Hermione a lot. Instead of listening, she went in with that colonizer mindset that we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that like something that is necessary for a successful grassroots movement, at least in the Harry Potter series, and it probably translates to real life too, is that it has to be a cause that people actually believe in for the right reasons. Because like the reason with the Death Eaters, yeah, they might believe that the world would be a better place if everybody was a pureblood, but they're doing it for selfish, malicious reasons. They believe in that for selfish, malicious reasons. While with the Dumbledore's army and Order of the Phoenix, like this is a cause that everybody there actually believes in, and therefore when they lose their figurehead, they don't think that that's the end of the movement because they believe that the cause is worth fighting for past the life of any one specific person.
Yeah, but do you think though that part of the reason that the Death Eaters are not as successful without Voldemort being present is because they were motivated by fear?
Oh, 100%.
Because there's like a lot of things afterwards when we see interactions between Voldemort and the Death Eaters. There's a lot of just kind of like intimidation and fear and like death. And
well, I think that's one big reason also why Grindelwald is more successful than Voldemort. And there isn't like a name for Grindelwald's followers like right now, as far as we know, like there are for Death Eaters, which are specifically Voldemort's followers. So Death Eaters are specifically Voldemort's followers, but we don't really know what they would be. Yeah, we don't know what they'd be called for Grindelwald yet. But maybe we'll find out in the next Fantastic Beasts movie. Who knows? But like that's another reason why I would say Grindelwald is not only more terrifying than Voldemort, but probably overall more successful in reaching his goal, because his followers were not motivated by fear like Voldemort's were, but they were motivated by manipulation and actually like
Well,
believing that they're doing the right thing.
I actually, the reason I find Grindelwald a more compelling villain than
Yeah.
Voldemort is that, one, he is more sophisticated in his speech, and you can see by listening to his monologues and his not monologues, his
Speeches.
speeches to the crowds, and even his conversations one-on-one with like Queenie and stuff, that he understands how to access people's wishes and have them believe that by supporting his cause, they too can have a part in this world that he wants to build.
Well, yeah, no, he's a master of manipulation, while as Voldemort, his manipulation is like much more fine-tuned and like very targeted to each specific
And
person.
it's horrifying to me because I can completely see how people fall to it. It also reminds me of not I mean I don't want to kind of turn off some people, but it reminds me of hearing pastors spewing prosperity gospel sermons where they manipulate churchgoers into tithing at very high percentages, so at mega churches, and saying that God will provide, and like, if because the righteous are rich, and like all these things that are very anti Christian, or anti, not very biblical, but very persuasive for human
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to that because I've never actually heard that firsthand, but I believe you.
Girl, it's insane. Like, I'm just sitting there going like, I can see why this can appeal to people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things about Christianity and even just organized religion in general are kind of ridiculous and like very surprising to me when you really sit down and think about it. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me that much
Well,
that
yeah, no, I
there's that
think I think
connection.
when you put the human element in it and you have agendas, right? And you
Yeah.
have people who need money. And I mean, as someone whose field of work right now, I mean, for the last 8 years has been winning contracts, getting money, and convincing people to contract with a certain company or get donations
Yeah.
from a foundation. Like, I understand there is the finesse to that, to kind of like, well, this is what we stand for, and we will give you the best, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just, I never thought I'd become a saleswoman, but I guess this is where I am. I'm a sham, everyone.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm a salesperson, so I feel that. Although my sales tactics are usually rooted in honesty rather than manipulation and deception. But
I have gotten into a lot of heated discussions with my bosses when they try to inflate numbers in a very non-ethical way. Not even slightly non-ethical. I'm just talking like, because you have to pick your battles when you're a woman, a color in the workplace. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not writing that. You can write it and you can send it, but I'm off this project if you want to do that.
goodness. Well, somehow we got way off topic from Grassroots movement. But
Salespeople aside, yes. So we're talking about fear, and we're talking about what motivates people and what creates a good grassroots movement that sustains itself without its leader, because it's not leader centric, right? It's more about the cause and
the
fighting
cause,
for the
yeah.
cause, rather than looking towards one person to give out all the instructions and no empowerment whatsoever. We see that also with later on, Lucius Malfoy has his house like, lent to Voldemort, and he can't even live in his house as a as the owner.
Yeah, yeah. gosh, Lucius makes some bad choices in his life, I'll tell you that.
Beautiful hair, terrible choices. So this is also the chapter where we have that moment of kind of dissent within the group before everyone signs the document. And there's some hesitancy because of the real, I wouldn't say dangers, but I mean real risks that the group of students is taking given the political climate at Hogwarts with one Professor Umbridge.
I don't think that first of all, I don't think that they really thought about any of that before they came into the Hogshead for this meeting. But also, like, they don't really know, and neither do we at this point, what the potential consequences could be, because really it could be 0 stakes and it could be really high stakes. As far as they know, like, what they're doing might be completely sanctioned and allowed under normal school rules. And they have no idea that Umbridge is going to enact this whatever proclamation that bans all extracurricular activities or whatever.
But the thing is, though, that they are well aware of her temperament. So they're just like, I don't see her being like so overjoyed for this. Like even Harry was like, I know you read all the rules. I know Hermione read all the rules, and that she really researched this. But I, Harry Potter, who go by my gut, can tell you right now that I don't think Umbridge is gonna be like super cool, guys. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Even McGonagall, you know, like he was like, I don't think McGonagall is going to want to be involved in this with Umbridge being around.
Yeah, they're all definitely taking a risk, and it's obvious after this chapter that not most of them, not 100%, but like 99% of them, like in the end, decide that risk is worth taking for the outcomes that are possible to achieve from that risk. So, I mean, these are some smart, capable teenagers.
Yeah, big ups to was it Fred who signed first? And he was like,
yeah, it was either Fred or George. Yeah, probably Fred.
It was big ups to Fred for being like, no big deal. I'll just sign my name. Who fucking cares? Also, do you want me to clean your ears with this sharp implement or any other orifice in your body? Which, like, it was everything. I howled.
To be honest, this is one of the main instances where we see that the twins are way more loyal to Harry than Ron is.
But even Ron was like...
I mean, that's a hot take. I know people are going to be like, what? How can I believe you just said that? But, I mean, think about it, guys. Just really think about it.
But also, the twins are notorious and popular. Is Ron notorious and popular, or is he always overshadowed by the twins and Harry? I said what I said.
I mean...
Anyhow, I don't necessarily feel bad for him, but I also understand what it's like to feel overlooked. Do I agree when he tries to lash out at Harry? No, absolutely not. But I also have a little bit of like, poor Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I can name like 5 things off the top of my head that the Weasley twins do as a solid for Harry that is like, you know, top bro status.
Also, like, Harry's like an angel investor. Think about that.
Yeah, but some of the things happened before he gave him his winnings.
Well, there's a reason why he's an angel investor, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but anyway. I love it. I love Ginny in this chapter. I know I'm going to talk about that later, but it's everything. I also love Ron's like, what do you mean Ginny is dating a boy?
Oh my god. And I just love, like, Hermione's just like, dude, get over it. She's a girl. She's an adolescent. She has, hormones. Just deal.
And then Hermione's like, I can have a pen pal.
Oh, yes, Hermione, twist that knife. Love to see it.
It's like, he didn't want to be just a pen pal.
So one note, I only took one note from this chapter that I wanted to discuss specifically outside of the grassroots movement topic, and that was everyone's extreme reaction to Hermione saying the words Lord Voldemort is so interesting to me. So, like, I was trying to think if we have an example of, because it's kind of like, it's something I don't think we can relate to really, because I can't think of any person or name or phrase or anything like that that like people would react that harshly to when they heard
I
it said
actually
aloud.
think, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the author got this idea of like a person who must not be named from a mobster who was so feared in his day, that people would not say his name.
Oh.
Le-
Yeah, I guess. I mean, sure, but but there isn't a person like that
Right
that I
now,
can
yeah,
think of
I don't think
now.
so.
Yeah,
No,
like I know multiple people that like refuse to say Trump's name, but that's not out of fear. That's just like because
that's out of
he
disgust.
disgusts them. Yeah,
I used to just say 45, or the orange
yeah. I
Cheeto.
mean, sometimes I call him he who must not be named. You know, like I don't like sometimes I just don't feel like giving him the respect of actually like saying his actual name out loud. But that's completely different. Like, and I kind of and I did think of like maybe like this is not. I decided that this wasn't a proper comparison, but I did think of racial slurs because there are some that people don't want to say out loud, but they don't say it out of like it's not the same.
No, that's not the same. I tend to think also maybe, and maybe this is my misinterpretation of of Protestant Christianity, but in a lot of Christian offshoots, or Protestant churches, they won't say like
Yeah.
the devil. They will say the enemy,
Huh.
almost as if like that there's a fear around naming the devil or Satan, or Lucifer, like those
I
three.
mean that seems to be a similar concept, but I've never. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. So
I mean, I can kind of see that, but other than that, because I mean, I can't think of a name of a person or a concept at this point in time where we would flinch, or maybe an insult like a "see you next Tuesday."
I mean, like, I guess the closest that my mind can come to is like Hitler, but people still say that. I mean, yeah, it's like taboo. You don't like he's like the what like the lowest of the low people. It's you don't want to be compared to him, and he's one of the most awful human beings to have lived in our recent history. But people still say the word Hitler.
Yeah, I don't think that there's like, to me at least, and maybe I'm just privileged beyond belief that I don't know about like a name or concept that is so taboo.
Yeah, listeners, if you can think of something that we haven't been able to think of and you have any insight on this, I would really be interested. Like email us at accupolitics@gmail.com because I'm stumped. Like, I don't know. It's something I've always felt and been curious about reading this entire series ever since, I first read it when I was young. This like concept of people not wanting to say Voldemort's name was always just kind of strange to me because like saying his name doesn't change anything, like saying it out loud. Unless you're talking about in Deathly Hallows when there's like literally a trace on his name or something, and that's how they're caught in Deathly Hallows and brought to Malfoy Manor. But like up until that point, literally saying his name didn't like everybody had such a huge adverse reaction except for like Harry and eventually Ron and Hermione and then like, maybe a couple of orders of the Phoenix members. But like everyone has such an adverse reaction that I just never made sense to me.
I think maybe if you're in a small community and you're maybe gossiping about someone, you won't say their name. Or if everyone knows everyone and you're like, can't say that person's name out loud because then they'll know. Yeah, but it's not the
Well, no,
same.
it's not. It's not a thing where if you actually did say the name, people would literally scream.
Yes.
Like in this chapter, people literally like shriek
Well,
when they hear
Neville's like shriek that he turned into a cough was everything.
it. Yeah, like people spill their drinks, they jump, like it's like someone like screamed in their ear or something. They're like, ah, like what's going on? Like it's like a physical reaction.
I mean, I kind of feel that way about COVID, but like it's not like I'm gonna like scream if someone says COVID to me. I just get.
Well, no, we're so like
I just get a
desensitized to it.
I just get a feeling of dread whenever like I hear someone talking about it, but it's not the same.
Yeah, we're desensitized to it, which is kind of, I mean, like Harry is desensitized to like the thought and name of Voldemort. That's probably why he doesn't
Also, there
care.
wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the Fantastic Beasts series, there's not a like that same fear of the name situation going on.
For Grindelwald,
Yeah.
no.
And I think
Not
that
for
actually
Grindelwald.
also makes him even more compelling than Voldemort, because I think to me Grindelwald is obviously patterned very closely from like Hitler, who was
Yeah.
very effective in gaining followers and people to his side.
Yeah, I think a main difference probably is that Voldemort did a lot of his own murdering, and I don't think Grindelwald did a lot of his own murdering.
Yeah, I let's just say, okay, so redeeming quality for Voldemort, he was a go-getter.
Oh my
A
goodness.
self-starter.
I mean, even like Grindelwald outlived Voldemort, and he was born decades and decades before old Voldemort was born. So,
Well, because I think
well, actually, no. Voldemort kills Grindelwald, but like Grindelwald was much older when he died than when Voldemort died.
well, also it just speaks to the A plus plus that is Voldemort, which is like a self-starter. He does things, he
He can write that on his resume,
okay, so okay, let's so I'm gonna write a bio, like that profile for
like a
Voldemort.
cover letter.
Yeah, no, for like that profile section, the first section that you put on your resume, be like
Yeah.
self-starter, effective at leading small groups of cowards, and sometimes do not know my own limits and my ambitions and push myself too hard to literal death.
Like very, very. I don't want to say passionate or ambitious, but like
Overachiever,
motivated,
self-starter,
motivated.
motivated,
Yeah, very
very
motivated.
motivated.
Willing to go to any lengths to get what I want.
Willing to bend a few rules and then some to get what I want. To get the results required.
I want to see someone. I want to see someone looking over Voldemort's resume, and I just want to see their reaction.
I kind of want now to just write like a little blurb for Voldemort's resume. So another part of this chapter that I thought was interesting was like Luna's whole like, well, of course, that makes a lot of sense that he's worried that Dumbledore will create his own army because Fudge has his own army of like.
Oh yeah.
And it just really resonated with me because of what we spoke about earlier about like my mom being so susceptible to misinformation because it came from a trusted source. And I'm just like, Luna, just because you were right once doesn't mean you're right all the time. like a broken clock can be right twice in a day. But also, Hermione girl, like, you don't have to be so dismissive.
Yeah, Hermione is just so combative when it comes to Luna because she's always just like, "You're wrong, I'm right. You're wrong, I'm right." And it's
they're
like,
both
okay, that might
it's
be
because
true,
they're
but
both
like,
that way. Because Luna's like, well, I'm right and you're wrong.
yeah, I guess. But I feel like if Hermione approached it with just like, I don't think that's true. Like Luna would just be, instead of being combative, Luna would just be like, okay, we can agree to
I think
disagree.
they
That's
both
fine.
irk each other in a weird way. They might be too similar in temperament and intellectual temperament, even though one of them is
Yeah.
kind of like floaty. But intellectual
Yeah.
temperament, I think that it's very similar.
It's so interesting to me because they have one very, very strong thing in common, and that's like their female best friend.
Yes.
Like Luna is best friends with Ginny, and so is Hermione. Yet they are so like combative, and they do not get along at all. I kind of just wish I could be there and hear the conversations between Ginny and Luna about Hermione and Ginny and Hermione about Luna.
I think that you could probably mediate a session between both of them, Miss Psych Major.
I would gladly jump at the chance.
Hermione, tell us your side of the story. Luna?
See, no, I'd be like, okay, guys. I think the problem here is our communication styles. I think that you guys are just not communicating your thoughts and opinions in a way that is conducive to being heard and understood by the other party. So let's think about the way that we communicate to each other. Honestly, I think that's the biggest problem.
Oh, Helene, you're gonna like slay it in Biden's Harry Potter cabinet pick.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Remember me when you're doing grassroots organizing.
Totally, you're the first person I'll call.
Well, let's move on to Dementors and Chocolate. Helene, what was your Dementor in this chapter?
As a very proud and loud Hufflepuff, my Dementor in this chapter is the representation of all Hufflepuffs in this chapter. It's awful. No wonder people didn't have a good opinion of us before Pottermore and Fantastic Beasts. I remember when I took my Pottermore quiz for the very first time in like 2011, and I got Hufflepuff, I was mad about it at first. And then, I grew to love it. And I had to think, and I was like, why was I mad about it? And it's probably because of shit like this. Because literally the most Puff representation we get, a lot of it is in this chapter. There are a lot of Hufflepuffs mentioned and, that actually speak and have, things going on in this chapter. We have Michael Corner, who is Ginny's boyfriend. He's not so great in this chapter. Nope. We got Ernie Mac, who for the most part is like probably the most redeemable Hufflepuff in this chapter, but is kind of annoying and snooty and like, scaredy cat at the end until they convince him to sign the paper. And then we get little Zachariah Smith. I can't even think of an adjective that I want to use to describe him right now. I'm so mad. That little
slimy.
Yeah, little rat. I don't even know. He was so awful in this chapter. And these are all it's like Hufflepuffs are like supposed to be the nice house. All these people are awful.
Helene, there's trash everywhere. You know what I mean? I do agree that like there's not a good representation of the Puffs here.
Not at all.
Like Cedric Diggory was like A++, but
yeah,
everyone else kind of sucks in this chapter.
Yeah, Cedric is a solid dude, but makes me so mad.
So my Dementor is related to yours. Mine was Zachariah Smith's attitude, which gross, leaves a lot to be desired. I too concurred with Fred and George and their cleaning implements.
Yes.
And also Cho's friend,
Marietta Edgecombe. Yeah.
Like, my girl, what the hell? You didn't want to be there? Don't go.
This is so I don't know how boys, like teenage boys, read this for the first time, because I think it's a very specific, like teenage girls and girls of all age, really.
Oh, the traveling
no, you read this as a girl, I feel like, and it's like immediately Cho asked her to come because she didn't want to go alone to see her crush.
Of course.
100%. Like, and it's never outright said in the chapter, ever.
But guess what? Like, a good friend doesn't have an attitude while there. Like, it's best to not go than go with that attitude.
Well, the thing is, like, first of all, if you need to find friends that support your crushes. And if you have a friend that doesn't, like, I'm sure this Marietta girl probably just like doesn't think Harry is actually a good guy because of all the shit she's read in the media and all that stuff. She probably believes Daily Prophet. And so she doesn't think that Cho should like Harry. But if that's the case, like, find a friend that actually like wants you to be successful in this relationship and wants your crush to work out for you, because why, like, I'm sure you have at least one friend like that.
Well, another part of my Dementor, actually, I mean, these were like character specific ones, but if I think about like thematically throughout the chapter, is I love that we have been able to use this chapter and what springs from this chapter as a springboard to talk about grassroots movements and how they how they can be
Yeah.
successful and how we can use this as a template in our lives, and learn from it and not be a colonizer, in groups, right? And give everyone voices. But the the fact that the educational system was failing them so much at such a critical time, so that they had to seek this avenue, is a dementor for me.
Oh yeah, it's just like a culmination of everything that's happened up until this chapter.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
the education system, as overseen by the Ministry of Magic, great, has put them in a very dangerous position to where they feel the need to act on this. And it's
Yeah.
not just Harry, Hermione, and Ron, it's 25 extra people on top of them.
Well, yeah, and it's put them in this position. All of this stuff that's culminated up until this point has put them in a position where they have to put themselves at great personal risk, and they have to, um, you know, spend more time focusing on this rather than things that teenage kids should be like. They should be able to just like be kids when they have free time, but instead of having free time and hanging out with friends and playing quidditch and having extra time to do their homework and stuff, they have to do this, which they shouldn't need to do. They shouldn't have to make all this extra work for themselves to get this education, because the education system should be working in their favor, but because it's not, it
It's like they didn't even have, these are not complementary lessons, these are supplemental lessons.
yeah.
And that's where the problem is. If it was complementary, it's the study group,
Well,
right?
yeah, it's affecting their childhood is kind of, yeah.
A supplementary lesson is that you're not getting something where you should be getting it, so you need to be getting it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that to me is a big time Dementor. Obviously, it's like one of the biggest ones in this book, as it pertains to their education, not anything else that's happening, but their education.
Yeah, definitely. On to happier topics.
Yay!
Let's go into chocolate. So I feel like I kind of took an easy way out for my chocolate this time because I literally couldn't think of just one thing. So I said that my chocolate was this entire chapter because God, I loved it. Okay, it was such a good break from the absolute bleakness that we've been experiencing in the last few chapters up until this point. And I know that you feel the same way. Like every chapter we've discussed in the last, I don't know, month or so,
It's been
even
draining,
more.
man.
It's Well, yeah, it's just like, oh, this sucks. Like I feel so bad for Harry. I hate that they have to go through this. Like it makes me stressed. It makes me angry. And this chapter was just like a nice break from that. It left me hopeful and excited and happy and amused. It gave me all the happy emotions, all the positive emotions, and there were very few moments in this chapter where I was not happy. So that was a nice break.
Also, part of what was really important in this chapter is Harry doesn't have an actual breakdown. And I
True.
think a lot of that emotional baggage and psychic energy that we've been
Yeah.
carrying around as we reread this in the times of COVID,
Right.
we're just like, okay, can we just not have to relive this with Harry? Because being 15 the first time was fucking terrible. Now I'm in lockdown. And people
Oh
are still trying a
God.
coup, attempting
Imagine.
a coup, you know?
Yeah, I just imagine how all the 15-year-olds right
Listen,
now feel. I feel so bad for you guys.
if you are 15 years old, I am so sorry. I promise
Yeah.
it gets better, especially because I have to believe that we are gonna get out of this lockdown, but also because I know that my life has gotten way better now than it was in, that period of my life.
Yeah. I just
Before
can't
that period.
I cannot fathom being an adolescent in a time where it's not okay to go see your friends and escape from like your family every once in a while, cuz As an adult, like, yeah, we don't live at home. We can do whatever the hell we want. Like, our parent, we don't. I mean, there are some adults that
Well,
live with their parents, but
I can kind of relate. I mean, I obviously wasn't in quarantine. I wasn't with my family like 24/7, but
yeah.
I lived in a remote part, like the house I grew up in. We had no neighbors, so it was like a remote part of
Oh,
of, of the city we lived in. So there's like a lot of hills and whatnot. I did not have friends my age who lived close to me.
oh, that
Um,
sucks.
Oh, it was when I say it was the it was the worst of times, it was the worst of times. That's what I
Oh gosh.
mean.
Back in her day, Adri had to walk uphill to school in the snow both ways. Okay.
In a tropical island, okay?
Yeah. Yep. With no shoes. With no shoes. Okay.
Well, my dad has a lot of walking to school stories without shoes, so
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's just
it's
a
like
generation removed.
yeah.
No, but really, I didn't have any neighbors my age. I wasn't allowed. So, like, my mom was like, "I'm not driving you anywhere. I'm tired." So it was quite legitimately almost like I was on lockdown, but then I went to school every day. I get you guys. Like, I didn't have a pandemic to worry about, but I was on lockdown on my own home.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed out. And I lived under a dictatorship. It's That's legitimately what my mom called the house.
COVID or not, long story short, it gets better. It will. It does.
And then you're in your 30s, you don't get any cultural references. You have 3 chihuahuas and a husband who cooks for you. It's great.
Is that gonna happen magically when I turn 30? All the stuff you just said?
Well, maybe not the 3 chihuahuas part. I don't think you like chihuahuas.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm only 3 years away, so like I just want to know what to expect on my 30th birthday. Also, it's my golden birthday when I turn 30, so that's pretty
What do you
cool.
mean your golden birthday? Talk to me more about this.
Oh, you've not heard of this concept?
No.
A golden birthday is when you turn the age of the number of the day you were born on. So like I was born on August. Yeah, so I was born on August 30th. So my golden birthday is 30 because it's the 30th of the month. So, you know, a lot of people have their golden birthdays when they're young. So if like they're born on the 7th or whatever, they had their golden birthday when they were 7. But I personally think it's fun to have your golden birthday when you're older because I have a couple of friends who, when they celebrated their golden birthdays, they like went to Vegas. It's like a big birthday. So that's my plan. Hopefully, is to go to Vegas when I turn 30.
Am I invited to this?
I mean, 100%, sure, yeah. What is your chocolate?
My my chocolate is Jenny fucking Weasley.
I mean,
Yes,
she's like my series chocolate.
obviously I know this, but like her little cough of umbrage,
Oh, she's so fun.
iconic. What an icon!
She's like the perfect mixture of the twins and her mom. I feel like
She is everything.
yeah.
Also, Hermione really reminded me of Molly Weasley in this chapter in a way that I cannot pinpoint, but I will just put that out there.
Interesting. We'll have to like dig into
Dissect that
further. Yeah, dissect that
later on.
Literally exactly what I was trying to say was dissect that further, and I couldn't think of yeah. So you literally took the words out of my mouth. But yes.
Let's move on. Last week we posted the following question: should Harry have reported Umbridge and her abuses of power? Why or why not?
You guys, we got so many wonderful answers this week. We did have to edit some of them down for time, but we do want to make sure we give you all a shout out because you're awesome. So the first one is from Jeff. He says, "Happy Christmas, mates." Thanks, Jeff. I think most folks can agree Harry should have been able to report Umbridge. Harry has lost his faith in the system that is supposed to protect and provide for him and his peers. Umbridge came straight from the government and has authority over everyone except for Dumbledore, who won't talk to Harry. Why would Harry tell any of the teachers when he feels abandoned? Sadly, this happens with bullies and abused kids all the time. They understand enough to recognize when a situation is hopeless because the adults in their life either don't care or can't do anything anyway. Also, Harry got pride and wants to drop Umbridge on his own terms. Love that.
I love that, and I mean, it's no surprise that I agree with Jeff because of my entire like rant last time about, there are consequences, right, when you report something. And obviously I'm not saying people should not report. It's just there's a complicated it's a complicated thought process and decision making process, and survivors should report if they feel safe enough to do so. So yeah. I want to read this one from Desiree.
Do
So
it.
she thinks that Harry should have reported it. She adds that maybe Harry thought Dumbledore already knew and was just choosing his battles, and that it's hard to imagine that Dumbledore didn't know about something happening within the castle.
This really made me think when I read this one, because she's right, and I never really thought about that, but Dumbledore knows everything. So it's hard to believe that Dumbledore didn't know about this, even if Harry never told him.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, then who are we? I honestly would rather place the blame on Umbridge, who is the person intentionally harming Harry, right? Like, she is the active perpetrator here. And then maybe we can talk about, well, did Dumbledore know and not do anything about it? And why? And did he think it wasn't that bad? So, like, there are multiple levels here, but just like when we're talking about any kind of abuse, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, sexual, in any nature, I also want us to put that burden on the perpetrator rather than the person receiving the abuse.
Yes, I mean, realistically, the burden of reporting obviously can't fall to the abuser because no abusers are ever going to report themselves.
Correct,
but
then, but if there's no abuse, there's nothing to report.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, the main person at fault, no matter what, is the abuser. There might be some people that believe that not reporting their abuse is not reporting the abuse is problematic, but at the same time, nothing is as problematic as the abuse actually happening in the first place. Yeah.
Yes.
So just perspective. Another listener who thinks Harry should have spoken up is For Rachel on Instagram. She says that he should at least have told McGonagall because even though he is quite capable and adventurous, minors shouldn't have to struggle with abusive authority on their own. And I think this is really similar to what Kay Alex was saying in the last episode, for sure.
Yeah, and I think this kind of compounds what Desiree Lopez on Instagram was saying, that, maybe Dumbledore and McGonagall would have been probably the best avenues to report this to. So, and another one for the Yes Column, Salau Communal Podcast on Instagram said that rereading as a grown-up, it is heartbreaking how many times Harry and company tried to bring things up to the grown-ups and got shut down. Yes, Minerva, I am looking at you. They also mention other times in previous books where the adults failed the trio, especially Harry.
Yeah, I think that this is like something that came to my mind when reading this the first time, was that I think that a big theme of Order of the Phoenix as a book in general is not trusting authority. Authority is not to be trusted. And it's something that that Harry and the trio really have to kind of learn the hard way. It starts off from the very beginning with Dumbledore. Harry realizes that he can't trust Dumbledore to be there for him. That's his.
Girl, I'm still learning this lesson.
Exactly. So I'm like, there are a lot of different avenues of fiction and storytelling in the world that explore this theme. I believe there's like there's a whole season of Buffy that kind of talks about how you can't really trust authority.
Well, isn't this distrust of authority also kind of coupled with the only person who can save yourself is you?
Exactly. Well, the thing is, a lot of storylines that navigate this theme are ones that are at their core about self-empowerment. It's about power. It's about finding yourself and finding your power. And that is what this book is really about too. The students of Hogwarts, by rejecting authority and not trusting authority, find the power in themselves and realize that they can do it without, they don't need anybody else. And so, I mean, it is very touching in a way, but it's also very disconcerting that children have to go through this phase sometimes.
Well, I mean, I'm in my 30s still learning to distrust.
Yeah. Well, it sucks that we live in a society where authority can't fully be trusted to have our best interests at heart. We know this in the government. The politicians, for the most part, you want to believe they have our best interests at heart, but most of them don't. And it's just it's sad. So I think that this response to the question is very poignant in the fact that, like, Harry didn't report because he doesn't trust authority. Full stop. And I think that is a very valid reason.
Yeah, and I mean, so I believe, I mean, this, obviously we edited this down, but they do believe that he should have reported, but also they understand that he did try many times, and the adults just kept failing them. So it's a nuanced, just it's very nuanced in the way that people are understanding. Even when they're saying yes to our question, they are also saying, yes, but I also understand that it's more complicated than that.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have one last one from Potterversity podcast. You want to read that one?
Yes. So they said to us that it is a dilemma which anyone suffering abuse must face. Will authorities listen and help? But more importantly, will it aggravate the abuse? Particularly in the cases of physical abuse, the pain you suffer inherently deters you from incurring your abuser's wrath.
Well said. I mean, I have no addition to that, because
yeah, it kind of like neatly wraps up all of the topics we've just covered in regards to this in a little bow, I think.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Because we have been talking about grassroots organizing and what makes a grassroots organization successful versus what does not, and colonization and all the good stuff that I love to rant about. But this week, we want to know everyone's thoughts and opinions on why it is that the Death Eaters were not inherently successful in their movement or in their goals when Voldemort was MIA/presumed dead. That moment in time between Harry being born and vanquishing the Dark Lord with the love of his mother, and Harry turning like 14 and a half or whatever.
Yes. Why do we think the Death Eaters were not successful in their goals during the absence of Voldemort as their leader?
That's the one that's going to be posted on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. And so if you want to share your thoughts on why you think the Death Eaters weren't successful, please let us know. You can email us. You can, I'm going to be posting this on both Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And so, comment on our social media, send us an email, send us a DM, send us an owl, any form of communication. We want to hear from you, and we'll read your response on next week's episode.
I am so excited. I just can't. And I cannot believe I have not used an air horn until.
Oh my gosh. Now you're being all stingy with air horns. A few weeks ago it was just like every 5 seconds.
You know that my promise of remixing you with air horns is not an empty threat.
Oh my goodness.
Helene, it's time for the media that we've been consuming.
That's when you wanted to use it. I see. All right. Well, I don't have anything specifically exciting or new to report in this department. I've been watching more Bones, very slowly, finishing the 5th Percy Jackson book. The only thing I want to bring up that's different than what I've said the last 3 weeks is that I have been watching this season of The Bachelorette. Not surprising. I love The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, as you probably know about me already at this point. And I just want to say that Tayshia Adams is the best Bachelorette in history. and I fucking love her. Okay, if you like stopped watching The Bachelor or The Bachelorette over the last
Wait, is this the season where like they had to bring in a new bachelorette?
Yes. So the
like,
season started off with Claire as the
okay.
bachelorette, and she like found the guy she wanted to marry literally right away, and they had maybe like 2 or 3 weeks of her season, and then they got engaged, like, and they were like, okay, well, this is weird, so we'll bring someone else in. And I'm so glad it was Tayshia, because Tayshia was on Colton's season, and I really loved her then. She was so awesome. And then she was on Bachelor in Paradise, and I loved her then. And I really wanted her to be the Bachelorette anyway. So when they announced Claire, I was like, dang it, I really hoped it was Tayshia. And then this whole thing with Claire happened, and Tayshia took over, and she did not disappoint. She is so fucking good. So I have to say, if you were a Bachelor fan before and you stopped watching over the last couple of seasons because they were awful, one, I do not blame you. Totally valid. They were awful. But I really highly encourage you to start watching again, because Tayshia, this is like the best season. I swear to God, this is such a good season. Tayshia is so good. And her final 4 guys, we're about to do hometowns next week. Her final 4 that she has chosen are so, like, they have such good contestants this season too. I don't even know how they did it. It's a dream team. Is just, please, if you like, you'll love it, I swear.
I don't know if you are accepting book recommendations at this point, Helene, but since you are a fan of The Bachelor, I highly suggest you get the book One to Watch.
Okay. I mean, I'm accepting book recommendations, but it'll be a long time until I read it, because I still have lots of Rick Riordan books to get through.
But this is a book where a plus size influencer becomes like the new Bachelorette, and it goes through her season of The Bachelorette.
Wait,
and
seriously? That's so interesting.
It's amazing. An amazing novel by Kate Stayman London.
Okay. All right, I'll look out for it.
And even I, a non-Bachelorette fan,
Are you serious?
immediately sucked in.
You don't.
Yeah, I go trashier than that. Yeah.
What, you like 90 Day Fiance and stuff like the Bachelorette is like, I don't like reality TV, but The Bachelorette is amazing.
What I'm trying to tell you is that I am either like it's a very extremes with me. Like I just like super.
Are you saying that The Bachelorette is too classy for you?
It's too highbrow at this point.
Oh my. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I do like, if you want prime Bachelorette content, watch Tayshia's season. I highly suggest it.
Okay, so speaking of trash, I've been watching and immediately hooked and spellbound by The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Oh my gosh. And you won't watch The Bachelorette. Goodness.
What did I say, Helene?
I know, I heard you.
The Real Housewives, I feel like The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It has everything. It has a woman who was forced to marry her step-grandfather after her grandmother died and left her the church that she presides over. And no, she is not Mormon. She's Christian. Like, evangelical Christian or Baptist, one of those two. It has an ex-Mormon who was excommunicated because she had an affair with her now husband. They've been married for 10 years, and she loves the stripper pole. It has her cousin, who is a divorced Mormon woman, single mother, who owns an esthetician type shop and is like kind of still Mormon, but not really. It has a Jewish person who converted to Mormonism, married to a Mormon, but they have a tequila company. Okay. And it has a Jewish woman who has a gay son who is kind of like an extra housewife in this series. He's iconic. And it has a Muslim woman who used to be Mormon.
Goodness.
It has everything.
I honestly wanted you to say, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It has everything. It has housewives. It has salt. It has lakes. It has cities.
It has cities. Yes, that's it. It is breathtaking. Just, they are terrible people. And yet I cannot stop watching. And I also just finished the Heroes of Olympus quintet because I have no self-control.
I mean, how was it?
Amazing. It slaps. To quote you.
I love that phrase is like synonymous with me now. I love it.
See, also, may I humbly add, Taylor Swift's new album, Evermore. I have been also listening to
I have as well. I like it, but
not as much as Folklore.
I was gonna say I like it. I was gonna say I like it more than Folklore, but really? I do. I like it more than Folklore, but at the same time, I didn't really. I mean, like the songs. She's a very good songwriter. The songs are poetic, but like they're too slow and kind of. I need like fast songs on my albums.
See, I like folksy Taylor though. I do like the acoustic vibe. They're
all just like so sad and slow, and just like it just bums me out. Like I need a balance.
I got you, girl. It's just she's really vibing with my mood right now. So Taylor, you and I
will say, No Body, No Crime is awesome.
I was gonna say, you saw my tweet about
it, and it gives off some major Goodbye Earl vibes from the Dixie Chicks.
Oh yeah, so like Goodbye Earl walked so that No Body, No Crime.
Oh, love it! I love it! I love it.
Yeah, so Emmy and I, who Emmy is my Chihuahua, who I say she also is fueled by a desire for revenge, are really vibing on that song.
It's a great one. All right, that's it for today's episode. Join us next week to talk about Chapter 17 of Order of the Phoenix, Educational Decree number 24. That is Chapter 17 of Order of the Phoenix. I'm so excited. You're welcome for the Spanish lesson, everyone. You can find us online everywhere at Archaeopolitics and at archaeopolitics.com. You can support our podcast by becoming a patron to get physical goodies every 3 months for just $5 a month at patreon.com/archaeopolitics. Have I become Dora the Explorer? I thought you were gonna you're like the Spanish Count Dracula. Cinco Dolores. Dolores is pain. Dolores. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've taken Spanish. Leave us a voicemail at, I could do this in Spanish, but I'm not going to. 915-996-1699 with all of your burning thoughts and questions. And if you're feeling shy, you can email us at info@archaeopolitics.com. El número a llamar es 915-996-1699. You're welcome. That was beautiful. Thank you for that. You can also email us at archaeopolitics@gmail.com. Until then, politics managed. Keep safe and keep faith. Good night. Yeah, but do you think, though, that part of the reason that the Death Eaters are not successful without Voldemort? Oh my God! I said a worse thing than you said. So I'm gonna start over. Do you think one of the reasons that Death Eaters cannot continue at the level they were doing without Dumbledore? Oh my God, again. You did it again. It's Voldemort. You know what? Umbridge, Dumbledore, Voldemort. Same thing. They're all the same, apparently. So the Death Eaters cannot. Third time's the charm. Okay. You could do this. I have faith in you.